Sasha was born in the bustling city of Lagos, where life was a constant struggle for those without money. Her parents, Rebecca and James, were hard-working but poor. Rebecca sold fruits in the local market, waking up before dawn to secure the best spots, while James worked as a security guard in a small office building. Their combined efforts barely made ends meet, and they lived with their 3 children in a cramped one-room apartment in a crowded neighborhood. Sasha was the youngest and brightest of the 3 children. Rebecca and James had high hopes for her, believing she could achieve what they never could, a better life free from poverty. But with their limited income, they could only send her to a poorly funded public school. The classrooms were overcrowded and the teachers were overworked. Despite these challenges, Sasha was determined to make the most of her education, holding on to the dream of escaping the life of hardship that surrounded her. As Sasha grew older, those dreams began to fade. Without money, the path to a better life seemed blocked at every turn. After finishing school, the possibility of attending university was a distant dream. Her older siblings were already working to help support the family, and now it was Sasha's turn. With few options available, she took a job as a cleaner in the mansion of a billionaire named Solomon. Solomon was one of the richest men in Lagos, known for his vast business empire and extravagant lifestyle. He was married to Naomi, a beautiful and sophisticated woman who was admired by many for her grace and style. Their life was one of luxury, far removed from the struggles of people like Sasha and her family. The mansion where Sasha worked was a symbol of Solomon's wealth. Marble floors, golden chandeliers, and walls adorned with expensive art. Each day, as Sasha cleaned the mansion, she couldn't help but feel a growing sense of envy. The contrast between Solomon and Naomi's life and her own was stark. While her parents struggled to put food on the table, Solomon and Naomi lived in opulence, their every need catered to by an army of servants. Sasha's resentment grew as she continued to work in the mansion. She watched as Naomi attended glamorous events and charity galas, dressed in designer clothes, with a life that seemed perfect from the outside. Solomon, on the other hand, was rarely home, often traveling for business or entertaining guests. Despite his marriage to Naomi, he was known for his reckless behavior, especially when it came to women. His affairs were an open secret, and he never bothered to hide his indiscretions. As Sasha scrubbed the floors and dusted the furniture, she began to imagine what it would be like to have Solomon's wealth. She pictured herself in Naomi's shoes, living a life of luxury and comfort, far away from the poverty and hardship that defined her existence. The more she thought about it, the more she wanted that life. Her desire for wealth and a better life for her family grew stronger every day. Sasha's feelings of resentment deepened as she watched Solomon's careless behavior. He would come home with different women, acting as if he had no wife at all. Naomi, who often traveled for charity work or social events, seemed unaware or simply indifferent to his actions. The contrast between Solomon's life and Sasha's own situation was stark. She began to imagine what it would be like to live in such luxury, free from the worries of poverty. The more she thought about it, the more she desired that life. She dreamed of escaping her own hardships and providing a better life for her family. As the days passed, her envy turned into a dangerous obsession. She began to plot how she could use Solomon's reckless behavior to her advantage. One evening, while cleaning Solomon's bedroom, Sasha stumbled upon something that sparked an idea in her mind, a used condom, carelessly discarded after one of Solomon's many affairs. She realized that if she could somehow get pregnant with Solomon's child, she could demand financial support from him. The thought was both terrifying and thrilling. It was risky, but the potential reward was too great to ignore. Sasha knew she needed help to make her plan work, so she went to a doctor who could assist her. But the doctor told her that he wouldn't help unless she agreed to sleep with him. Sasha was shocked but felt desperate. She agreed, and the procedure was done. After the procedure, Sasha found out she was pregnant. She felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was her chance to change her life. When she told her parents, Rebecca and James, they were furious at first. James, especially, was angry and disappointed. But when Sasha explained her plan to get financial support from Solomon, James's anger turned to hope. Rebecca was worried, but saw the potential for a better life. They began to focus on the possibility of using the money to improve their situation. After Sasha told her parents about the pregnancy, she suddenly stopped going to work. Solomon noticed her absence and tried calling her, but her phone was switched off. He was worried and confused, but didn't know where Sasha lived. Since he couldn't find her, Solomon hired a new cleaner to replace her. As time went on, Solomon started to forget about Sasha. He became absorbed in his work and personal life, but he still had an underlying feeling of worry. His marriage to Naomi was becoming increasingly troubling. They had been married for 5 years, and despite his hopes, they still had no children. Naomi seemed uninterested in starting a family and was often away on her charity trips. Naomi's constant traveling made Solomon feel even more isolated. When Naomi was home, she was often distracted and not very engaged with him. Their conversations were short and lacked warmth. Solomon felt that their relationship was growing colder and more distant. He tried to talk to Naomi about having a child, but she always responded with vague promises and excuses. Her frequent absences and lack of interest in their family life only deepened Solomon's frustration. He felt increasingly unhappy and unfulfilled, despite his wealth and success. Solomon began to think more about his personal life and his marriage. The absence of a child and Naomi's detachment left him feeling unfulfilled. He was haunted by the emptiness in his life and the growing rift between him and his wife. Months after Sasha gave birth to twin boys, she felt a deep sense of triumph. "I've succeeded," she thought. "These boys are Solomon's children, and they will inherit his wealth." One afternoon, Solomon was relaxing at home when the doorbell rang. He answered it to find a woman introducing herself as Rebecca, Sasha's mother. Rebecca looked nervous, but was determined to speak with him. Rebecca informed Solomon that Sasha had given birth to his children, 2 boys. Solomon at first found the news hard to believe and laughed it off. "What are you saying, madam? Is your daughter some kind of miracle worker? I never even had intercourse with her. How can I be responsible for children I didn't father? If you have nothing useful to say, please leave." Rebecca was stunned and struggled to find the right words. She knew the real story, that Sasha had used a condom Solomon had left behind to get pregnant. Rebecca was afraid to reveal this, worried that Solomon might react angrily or even have her arrested for Sasha's deception. Feeling trapped and unsure of what to do next, Rebecca left Solomon's house. Back at home, Rebecca told Sasha about the conversation with Solomon. Sasha listened carefully, her thoughts racing. After hearing the details, Sasha decided she would confront Solomon herself. She realized that explaining everything directly to Solomon might be the best way to resolve the situation and secure the support she needed. Sasha, feeling both determined and anxious, decided it was time to face Solomon. She knew this meeting could change everything. With her heart racing, she went to Solomon's mansion and asked to speak with him in private. Solomon, curious about what Sasha had to say, agreed to see her. He led her to a quiet room and waited for her to explain herself. Sasha, trying to keep her nerves in check, began to reveal the truth. She confessed that she had taken one of his used condoms and used it to get pregnant. She explained that she was desperate and saw this as her only chance to secure a better future for herself and her children. Sasha admitted it wasn't right, but she felt she had no other choice. As Solomon listened, his expression turned from shock to anger. He couldn't believe what she had done and was furious that she had manipulated the situation to trap him. His emotions were a mix of betrayal and rage. Solomon made it clear that he would never accept the children as his. He told Sasha that she would soon hear from his lawyers and warned her that she could end up in jail for what she had done. He refused to take responsibility for the children and saw her actions as a deceitful scheme. The conversation ended with tension in the air, leaving the future uncertain and full of challenges. When Solomon's wife, Naomi, returned home from one of her frequent trips, she immediately sensed that something was off. Solomon was more distant than usual, and she noticed a tension in the air that she couldn't quite place. Naomi, always sharp and perceptive, decided to dig around a bit. It didn't take long before she overheard rumors swirling around town. Rumors that her husband had gotten their former cleaner, Sasha, pregnant. The news hit Naomi like a ton of bricks. How could Solomon do such a thing? Her anger boiled over. The moment she stepped into their home that evening, Naomi confronted Solomon. "Is it true?" she demanded, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and hurt. "Did you really get Sasha pregnant?" Naomi was determined to protect her marriage, and decided to confront Sasha directly. She didn't know where Sasha lived, so she asked the security man who had worked at their mansion for years. After some hesitation, he gave Naomi Sasha's address. Naomi went to the small, run-down apartment building where Sasha lived. The neighborhood was poor and nothing like the luxurious life Naomi was used to, but that only made her more determined to put an end to this situation. When Sasha opened the door, she was surprised to see Naomi standing there. Naomi didn't waste any time and walked straight into the apartment. Her voice was cold as she spoke, telling Sasha she knew about her plan to trap Solomon and break up her family. Sasha tried to stay calm and told Naomi that all she wanted was for Solomon to take responsibility for their children. But Naomi was furious. She made it clear that Solomon would never be with Sasha and that the children would never be part of their family. Naomi warned Sasha to stay away from her husband and family, or she would make her regret it. With that, Naomi left, leaving Sasha standing in her apartment, shaken but still determined to fight for her children's future. The confrontation made it clear that the battle over Solomon and the children was far from over. Naomi returned home after confronting Sasha, her emotions still running high. As she walked into the living room, Solomon looked up from his chair and asked where she had been. Naomi hesitated for a moment, then told him she had gone to see Sasha. Solomon's face darkened with anger. "You went to see her. Why would you do that?" he demanded, his voice rising. "This whole mess is because of you. If you had been serious about getting pregnant and taking care of things at home, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. You're the reason I ended up bringing other women here in the first place." Naomi's eyes flashed with anger at his words. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Are you seriously blaming me for this?" she shot back. "You're the one who can't keep your pants zipped. Don't you dare try to make this my fault." The room was filled with tension as the two of them stood there, glaring at each other. Solomon was furious, but deep down he knew that what Naomi said wasn't entirely wrong. He had let his own desires and carelessness create this situation, but he couldn't bring himself to admit it. "You don't understand, Naomi," Solomon said, trying to regain control of the conversation. "If you were more present, more involved, maybe things would have been different. But you're always traveling, always focused on something else. I'm your husband, but it feels like I'm just a stranger in my own home." Naomi wasn't having any of it. "Don't try to turn this on me, Solomon. You're a grown man, responsible for your own actions. If you couldn't handle our situation, you should have talked to me instead of bringing other women into our lives. You're the one who's been foolish, not me." The argument escalated, with both of them saying things they had been holding back for years. The tension between them had been building for so long, and now it was all coming out. They both felt betrayed and hurt, but neither was willing to back down. Finally, after what felt like hours of arguing, they both fell silent, exhausted from the fight. The room was quiet, but the anger and frustration lingered in the air. Solomon knew he had made mistakes, but he wasn't ready to admit them yet. Naomi, on the other hand, was determined not to let him off the hook so easily. Sasha was in her small, cluttered apartment when she heard an unexpected knock on the door. Opening it, she found the doctor standing there, a worried look on his face. Sasha was surprised and asked him how he had managed to find her. The doctor entered the apartment and explained that he had learned about Solomon taking the case to court. Then he revealed something startling. He believed that the twins might actually be his children. Because he had been with Sasha before Solomon's procedure, which meant he might be their biological father. Sasha felt a wave of fear and panic. She had kept this secret from everyone, including her parents, and now the doctor knew the truth. Sasha quickly asked the doctor to speak quietly, afraid her parents might overhear. The doctor, seeing her anxiety, made an offer. He said he could help her manipulate the DNA test results and even bribe the judge to ensure she won the case. But there was a catch. He demanded that Sasha give him 50% of whatever financial support she received and continue having a relationship with him whenever he wanted. Sasha was shocked and disgusted by the doctor's demands. She didn't want to agree to such terms. The idea of being forced to keep seeing him and giving away half of what she might get was upsetting. But she knew she had very few options. If she lost the case, her children's future would be at risk, and all her efforts would be for nothing. After a tense silence, Sasha reluctantly agreed to the doctor's terms. She made him promise that everything would remain a secret, especially from Solos and his wife. The doctor, satisfied with the arrangement, left the apartment with a smug look. Sasha was left alone, feeling trapped and conflicted. As Sasha sat in her dimly lit apartment after the doctor left, she struggled with the reality of her situation. She was deeply worried about the choices she had to make, but she was also determined to secure a better future for her children. The day of the court hearing arrived, and the courtroom was filled with tension. Solomon sat at one end, looking anxious. Sasha was there too, clutching her papers, her heart pounding. The judge had been reviewing the evidence, including the manipulated DNA results and the bribes arranged by the doctor. After what felt like an eternity, the judge entered the courtroom and took his seat. The room fell silent as he prepared to announce his decision. Solomon, already worried about the outcome, tried to remain calm. The judge began speaking, his voice steady and authoritative. He announced that the DNA test results, which had been carefully altered, showed that the twins were indeed Solomon's children. Despite the deceitful way Sasha had obtained the results, the judge had no choice but to accept them as valid evidence. The judge then delivered the verdict. Solomon, you are ordered to pay Sasha 100 million naira in child support. This amount is meant to cover the needs of the children and secure their future. Solomon was stunned. His eyes widened in disbelief, and he sat there, frozen. He had not expected such a high amount. The sum was enormous, and the reality of the situation hit him hard. The judge's decision was final, and Solomon had no choice but to comply. The DNA results left no room for doubt or appeal. Sasha, on the other hand, felt a mix of relief and triumph. The court's decision meant she would finally receive the financial support she needed for her children. She knew the journey had been difficult and full of moral compromises, but the outcome gave her hope for a better future. As Solomon left the courtroom, he was visibly upset. He had to face the consequences of the decisions he had made and the deceit that had been part of the case. Sasha watched him go, feeling a complex mix of satisfaction and apprehension about what the future would hold for her and her twins. A week after Solomon paid Sasha the 100 million naira, her life had changed drastically. She had moved into a much bigger and better house, showing her newfound wealth. The cramped apartment she once lived in felt like a distant memory now. But things were not entirely smooth. The doctor, who had been trying to reach Sasha, finally decided to visit her in person. He showed up at her new, elegant home, looking frustrated and impatient. Sasha had been avoiding his calls, knowing he might come with demands. When Sasha opened the door, she was surprised to see the doctor. She let him in, but kept her demeanor cold. The doctor didn't waste time. Sasha, I've been trying to reach you for days. You haven't kept your promise. I'm still waiting for my 50% and for you to continue seeing me as we agreed. Sasha stood her ground. I'm not giving you anything. You made a deal based on lies, and I've already paid the price. Now you're just trying to blackmail me. The doctor's face turned red with anger. You can't do this. We had an agreement. If you don't follow through, I'll expose everything. People will find out about the fake DNA test and the bribes. We'll both be in serious trouble. Sasha didn't back down. Go ahead and try. If you make any trouble, I'll expose you too. I'll reveal how you manipulated the results and were involved in bribing officials. Both of us will end up in jail. The doctor, realizing he was in a tough spot, tried to negotiate. Okay, let's talk. Maybe we can work something out. But Sasha wasn't interested in negotiating. There's nothing to discuss. If you want to stay out of trouble, you'll leave me alone and keep quiet. Seeing he had no other choice, the doctor agreed to leave. He walked out of Sasha's house, frustrated and defeated. Sasha closed the door behind him, feeling a sense of relief and control. She knew she had secured her future and was prepared to defend it against anyone who tried to take it away. As Sasha looked around her new, spacious home, she felt a mix of satisfaction and caution. She had achieved what she wanted. Back at Solomon's house, Naomi was furious. She stormed into the living room where Solomon was sitting, his face still showing signs of the stress from the recent court case. Solomon, I can't believe you just gave Sasha that huge sum of money without even questioning her, Naomi shouted. How could you be so careless? I thought you were educated and smarter than this. You're acting so senseless. Solomon looked up, trying to remain calm. Naomi, please, let me explain. I didn't want to cause any more trouble. The court had already decided, and I thought it was best to settle things quickly and move on. Naomi's anger didn't subside. Settle things quickly. You didn't even bother to investigate properly. I'm starting to suspect that you were involved with Sasha in some way when she was working for us. Why else would you just hand over such a large amount of money without doing your own checks? Solomon tried to reason with her. No, Naomi, it's not like that. I just wanted to do what was right for the children. They are my responsibility now, and I want to make sure they're taken care of. I didn't want to make things worse by dragging out the situation. Naomi's frustration grew. So now they're your kids, huh? You're saying that with no hesitation after giving away so much money? I don't understand how you could be so naive. What if Sasha was just playing you the whole time? This whole thing looks suspicious. Solomon sighed deeply. I didn't want any more conflict. I wanted to settle it and ensure the children have what they need. I know it wasn't ideal, but I thought it was the best way to handle it. Naomi shook her head, her face red with anger. Well, you've made a mess of things. You should have been more cautious and done your own investigation. Now we have to deal with the consequences of your decisions. Solomon tried to calm her down. We'll figure this out. I understand you're upset, but yelling at me won't help. Let's try to work through this together. Naomi wasn't convinced. I don't know how we're going to fix this now. You've made things difficult for us, and I'm worried about what's next. This situation is far from over. As Naomi stormed off, Solomon sat in silence, feeling the weight of her words. He knew the situation was complicated, and despite his intentions, things had spiraled out of control. The problems between him and Naomi were far from resolved, and he could only hope that they would find a way to manage the fallout from his decisions. The doctor was growing increasingly frustrated. His financial situation was dire, with months of unpaid salary leaving him in a difficult spot. He had once seen Sasha as a source of easy money, but now his feelings had shifted. He was angry at her and desperate for cash. One afternoon, he decided to confront Sasha directly. He went to her new, luxurious house, hoping to get at least a portion of the money she owed him. As he rang the doorbell and waited impatiently, he thought about how much he needed the money to support his own family. When Sasha opened the door, she was surprised to see him. She knew why he was there and had been dreading this moment. She invited him inside, but her expression was cold and wary. What do you want? Sasha asked, trying to sound indifferent. The doctor didn't waste any time. Sasha, I need money. Even if it's not the full 50% we agreed on, I need something. I've been waiting for weeks, and I can't keep living like this. Sasha shook her head. I'm not giving you any money. You made your bed with deceit, and now you have to deal with it. If you try to threaten me, I'll make sure everyone knows about your involvement. Do your worst. The doctor's face twisted with anger. Is that so? Well, if you won't give me any money, then how about this? I want your twin boys. Sasha stared at him, shocked and appalled. Are you joking? You're too old and too poor to think you can just take my children. You must be out of your mind. The doctor's frustration boiled over. You think this is a joke? I'm serious. If you won't help me, then I'll make sure you regret it. I'll find a way to get what I want. Sasha stood firm, her voice cold. I suggest you leave now before things get worse for you. I won't give you anything, and I won't let you take my children. You're only making things worse for yourself. The doctor, seeing that Sasha was resolute, turned on his heel and left the house in anger. As he walked away, he muttered under his breath about how he would deal with Sasha. He was determined to find a way to get the money he needed, even if it meant taking drastic measures. Sasha closed the door and leaned against it, feeling a mix of relief and unease. She knew the doctor was dangerous and that his threats were not to be taken lightly, but she also felt a strong resolve to protect her new life and her children at any cost. Sasha was growing increasingly worried about the threats from the doctor. Desperate to protect herself and her new life, she decided to take drastic action. She bought a gun and made a plan to lure the doctor into a secluded place under the pretense of meeting him for a secret appointment. One evening, Sasha contacted the doctor and told him she wanted to meet him in a quiet, remote location. The doctor, eager for the money he had been promised, agreed without hesitation. He arrived at the secluded spot, unaware of Sasha's true intentions. When the doctor reached the meeting place, Sasha was already waiting. As he approached, Sasha pulled out the gun and with no warning, shot him. The doctor fell to the ground, seriously injured. Sasha quickly fled the scene, leaving him behind. The doctor, although critically hurt, managed to survive. He had told his wife everything about Sasha and the threats she had made. When he didn't return home that night, his wife grew worried. She remembered the address her husband had given her in case something went wrong, which was Solomon's house. The next morning she went to Solomon's mansion, frantic and anxious. She explained to Solomon what had happened, how Sasha had tricked her husband. Solomon was furious. He immediately contacted the police and informed them of the situation. The police quickly launched an investigation. They tracked down Sasha and arrested her for the attack. When the doctor recovered, he too was arrested for his involvement in the bribery and deceit. The judge who had accepted the bribe was also caught, sacked from his position, and arrested. 2 months later, life began to settle down for everyone. Naomi, who had been deeply affected by the chaos, found out she was pregnant. She and Solomon were overjoyed with the news. The couple focused on rebuilding their lives and their relationship. Solomon had learned a hard lesson and was now fully committed to his wife. They worked on mending their marriage and planning for their future together. Solomon and Naomi's life slowly returned to normal, with the challenges they had faced serving as a stark reminder of the importance of trust and loyalty. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.